Capital One's bringing back a popular offer. You can get Southwest Companion Pass with just 1 intro bonus, and Delta cards are still standing strong, and we'll compare them. This and more as we look at some of the best intro bonuses available right now. Grab a drink, hit the like button, and let's dive into it. First up, we have the Capital One Venture with a limited time offer. So it starts today, February 18th, 2025, but there's no set end date yet. In total, you're getting up to $1,000 in travel value, and there's 2 parts to this. Part number 1 is a one-time $250 welcome credit that's valid for 1 year when you sign up for the card. The credit can be used to book flights, hotels, vacation rentals, and rental cars through Capital One Travel. Part number 2 is 75,000 bonus miles that are going to be worth at least $750 in travel after spending $4,000 in the first 3 months. The numbers work out pretty well. For example, if you're using your miles through Capital One Travel, then 75K times 1 cent per mile is $750 in value, plus 250 is 1,000 total. 1,000 divided by 4,000 spend is 25% return on spend. I guess you could argue components, but main idea is that the card and intro bonus is pretty solid. The card itself also isn't too shabby. So there is a $95 annual fee, but you do get 5x on hotels, vacation rentals, and rental cars through Capital One Travel, and then 2x on everything else. Especially if you are new to the space and you're just dipping your toes in, you're not sure if you want a big annual fee yet, then this is a pretty good starting point. And of course, a ton of value in year 1 with the intro bonus. Also, if you are looking to use miles towards interesting redemptions, let's say first or business class, then this might be a good way to try either a new product or do something cool for a honeymoon or anniversary, or just because. So if you are looking to do aspirational travel, then you can generally value the miles at about 2 cents. In that case, 75K times 2 cents is $1,500 in value. 1,500 plus 250 is 1,750 divided by 4,000 is 43.75% return on spend. Let's do a real example because I feel like that makes it more fair. The going deal price for a one-way business class flight from abroad to the US is about $1,500. The only time that it gets a lot cheaper is for mistake fares, and those happen maybe once every few years, and oftentimes they're not honored. So in our case, we actually did end up booking the Asiana flight, and that's how we got back from Japan. It was $3,000 total, so $1,500 per person per way. We actually could have flown ANA business class back because we did find availability, but we figured we'd try something new instead. Outside of ANA, the other alternatives that I'm kind of showing now, but they were different when we were trying to travel, is transferring 75K miles to Aeroplan for business class. So in our case, we ended up paying because it felt like a good deal, but otherwise we could have used 75K miles to avoid paying $1,500. Main takeaway is that if you're doing normal economy travel, the intro bonus is probably worth about $1,000 in value, but if you're doing aspirational and premium travel, probably about $1,750 or $1,800 in value. Let's do a super fast example. You can kind of think of points like a voucher for a drink. If you want to, you can do 2 economy ones, and that's fine, no complaints there. Alternatively, you could just do 1 premium one instead. Personally, I take 1 premium one, so 1 business or first class one, over 2 economy ones, but it just depends on you and what you're optimizing towards. If instead you're looking at domestic travel, then consider Southwest Companion Pass. For a limited time, there might be some cards that include this. I'd probably go for the Pop-Up Bear or Baby Bear of the cards. The case for the Pop-Up Bear is the net cost and how you come out ahead, given everything. Baby Bear is if you want to just get through the door and get Companion Pass. Generally speaking, for economy travel, Companion Pass is the most overpowered benefit out there. It lets you pick a person, so a companion, and every time you fly, they fly for free, and all they have to do is pay for taxes and fees. This is the case whether you pay with cash or with Southwest points. Also note that you can change your companion up to 3 times per calendar year, so you do have a bit of wiggle room here. Perfect if you're currently on the market and you don't want to lock down a person yet, but you still want to take people traveling and probably save money on your own end. Especially so if a companion pass you're getting is valid until, let's say, February 28th, 2026. Outside of that, I can't really talk more about the cards without risking another takedown notice for this video. But yeah, I think any card that gives you companion pass by you getting it is pretty solid. On a side note, and kind of ironic, but if you do want to learn about these cards or pretty much any other cards out there and you want to support the channel, we do have links on the website, asksabby.com, and also down below in the description box. Make sure the links are competitive and that the cards make sense for you, but otherwise, given the notices that some channels have gotten, so if you have the larger channels that talk about cards or the ones that are attached to larger ones that talk about cards, using those links is a huge way to support the channel as a going concern, so thank you in advance. Also, because I think there is a bit of confusion, it almost never makes sense to delete videos from a business perspective. The only reasons are either because you have to or to mitigate liability. So for example, I think I went from 1,300 videos down to 300, so 1,000 gone. It hurts even a bit more because there are a bunch of services that will pay pretty good money for your back catalog, so your old videos and all the revenue that's associated with it. But the last time I had some of those conversations, it's about 250,000 deleted, which is not ideal in any respect. Pretty much 80% of my videos from the last 7 years. Let's pour one out. If you like IHG properties, they also have increased point offers right now, so I would consider their cards. Guess that's all I can really say there. I do discuss it a bit more in the blog post, so best credit card offers for February 2025, that'll link down below. Citi Strata Premier has a great limited time offer right now, and well worth considering. You're going to get 75,000 bonus miles after 4,000 in spend in the first 3 months. It does depend on how you want to use the points. So for normal travel, it's about 1 cent per point, so about $7.50 in value divided by 4,000 is 18.75% return on spend. Citi also does have a lot of transfer partners if you are interested in premium flights, so same idea of Capital One, tons of upside if you care about that stuff. In that case, you can generally value it at about 2 cents per point, so 75K times 2 cents is 1,500 in value, divided by 4,000 is 37.5% return on spend. Outside of year 1 and the intro bonus, the card is a surprisingly good earner. You get 10x on hotels, car rentals, and attractions, booked through cititravel.com. You also get 3x on a ton of other categories. This includes air travel, other hotel purchases, restaurants, supermarkets, gas stations, and now EV charging stations as well. There is a $95 annual fee, but depending on how you travel, it might be a keeper card. The main reason for this is the $100 annual hotel benefit, so you get this per calendar year, but when you do a single hotel stay of 500 or more. It is a one-time thing and you have to spend 500 in order to trigger it. I do have a hard time defending credits that require minimum spend because it feels more annoying and doesn't feel as tangible. Technically though, I did end up using it in full, so maybe I can't complain. In our case, we ended up using it in Strasbourg for the Christmas markets. It was a pretty cheap hotel and it was a 1 star from their category, not from how I rated it. But yeah, even if you look at booking.com, it's 5.4 out of 10. Pretty much just a room in the central area. It did end up costing almost $600 for 2 nights, so about $300 per night, so it did trigger the $100 credit. But yeah, ironically, it was the cheapest option at $250 per night compared to pretty much everywhere else that went at $700 to $1,000 per night for Holiday Inn level hotels. So if you do plan to spend $500 or more on hotels in the next year and you're not looking to book of hotel points, then it's actually not a bad deal. Maybe unfair, but I'd probably still peg it at about 50 cents on the dollar, so 50 in value, but just depends on you. Your mileage may vary, but it just feels less tangible. Also, if the Citi Strata Premier doesn't make sense after the first year, there are no annual fee downgrade paths that you can downgrade to. 2 of my favorites are the Citi Double Cash and the Citi Custom Cash that both are pretty viable and useful in the long term. But yeah, the Strata Premier is a solid pickup given the intro bonus, its earner ability and keeper card ability, and the fact that you have a lot of options. Last up are Delta offers. I did do a deep dive in the last video, so this time we'll kind of look at everything across the board. We have the Delta Gold, Platinum, and Reserve, and different limited time offers. So even though the Reserve has the highest one at 100K, 80K with the Gold looks pretty good, given the lower minimum spend. So if you break it down that way, it's about 500 spend per month for the Gold, 667 for the Platinum, and about 1,000 for the Reserve. Delta Gold wins here for me. With these cards, you are earning Delta miles, and the cents per mile depends on how you want to use it. The absolute minimum value if you do pay with miles is 1 cent per mile. If you're using miles to book, then it does depend, and it can generally range from about 1.2 to 1.4 cents per mile. If you're aiming for Delta Flash sales or premium route sales, then maybe upwards of 2 cents per mile. One that I've talked about in the past and probably will book again this year is Taipei. Since Q4 of last year, Delta has had sales from Seattle to Taipei for Delta One for about 85K to 110K miles per way. No clue what's going on here, but pretty consistent and good use of miles. Let's actually do a live example because screenshots and evidence is always good. For March and April, this is what the calendar looks like for Delta One. Our goal is looking for the green ones, so the lowest date ones. In this case, it's 110K. So even though there are 330K, 410K, 440K days, we're ignoring those because they pretty much don't matter to us. Unless you have to go during those dates, if you have any flexibility, you're better off paying a fraction of the price, so 75% less. In the same way that if I don't need to eat eggs, if it's not a necessary part of my diet, I'm not going to buy it when the prices skyrocket, I'm not going to buy high. Clicking through one of these, we can see that it's Delta One Suites, and that's a pretty solid product, and it's also a daytime flight, meaning that you can enjoy the whole experience. There also is $6 in taxes and fees, but that's immaterial. The funny thing is that when we looked at this last week for that video, the numbers were a bit cheaper, so there might be some supply demand going on too. Going from that screenshot and pulling from there were a lot of dates that were 93.5K, so yeah, things do change, and oftentimes when you have a few hundred or a few thousand people looking for something, and a few taking those spaces, then prices go up. Also note that if you are a deal seeker and you want to pay less miles, then you do want to look last minute. In the case of Delta, I'd say about a month or two out. For example, if you look at the summer, everything's expensive. If anything, that's the case of having multiple cards and multiple systems. That way you can kind of pick and choose your spots for when things make sense. So ideally, a lot of currencies and options and also flexibility. Looking at the calendar for February, we see availability for the 23rd to the 26th. So given this, I think they do release a bit more space, about a week out or about 10 days out. Okay, back to Delta, let's calculate the values given the different ranges. For the Delta Gold, on the low end, it's 800. Likely for most people is about 1100. And then if you are being very aggressive, I'd say 1600. For the Platinum, it's 900, probably 1200 for most people, and then 1800 on the top end. Delta Reserve is 1000 on the low end as the minimum, about 1400 for most people, and then maybe 2000. But yeah, no wrong move here, just depends on you and how you want to use your miles. Annual fees do change the equation by a bit. For the Delta Gold, there's a $0 intro annual fee for the first year, and then $150 after that. Delta Platinum's at $350 and Reserve is $650. With that said, unsurprisingly, there are credits to help you. All three of them have Delta Stay credits, and it does vary depending on the card level. The Platinum and Reserve have rideshare, and they're the same there, and then Platinum and Reserve also have Resi, but double for Reserve. So the maximum total credits is up to 100, up to 390, and up to 560. Best case, if you take the annual fee and minus the total credits, then you have 50, -40, and 90. In this case, the Platinum card might be a keeper given the credits. Even if you apply a discount of 20% on the credits, so let's say you don't value it at face value, you think that it's only 80 cents on the dollar, it's still 70, 38, and 202. Potentially reasonable depending on how you value the other benefits. Delta Gold makes sense in the first year given all of this, but long term, it's going to be about the free checked bags and also priority boarding. Delta Platinum has the same perks, but also has a companion certificate. So this is pretty much a buy one get one, one-time use, every card member anniversary, so you get this after year 1, year 2, and so on. You do have to pay taxes and fees on this, but it should be able to save you a few hundred if you do fly with Delta. Delta Reserve has all of this stuff, technically a better companion certificate, but this one's more about lounge access. I'd say that the best for year 1 is the Delta Gold. For long term, probably the Delta Platinum. It sounds pretty good once you put it all on paper. And then if you are after lounge access, then Delta Reserve can make sense. Just my thoughts though, and feel free to discount the credits more if needed. Main takeaway, whether you care about Delta One Suites or Delta Economy flights, for the most part, if you can hit the intro bonus and you value the credits somewhat, then in year 1, it makes sense. Again, if you want to learn about cards, we have links on the website, asksabi.com, and also down below in the description box. Also, if you're curious, you can find the advertiser disclosure down below in the description box. If you made it to this point, leave a whiskey glass emoji in the comments down below, and I'll try to heart it and also respond. 3 questions. Number 1, what cards are on your radar for Q1? Number 2, do you have any trips booked? And number 3, what trips are you planning, if any? Let me know and everyone else know in the comments down below. Big favorite, thumbs up, consider subscribing, but otherwise hope you liked it. See you next time. See ya.